Is the 2025 budget scrutiny with a focus on the proposal, defense, and the alarming trend of no-shows by agencies. So, as we speak, the National Assembly is reviewing the 2025 budget proposal, but the process has already been marred by the absence of key agencies. Just recently, the House of Representatives Committee on Customs and Excise expressed frustration when the heads of government agencies, including the Controller General of the Customs and the Controller General of the Nigeria Immigration Service, failed to honor their invitation to an investigative hearing. This is not it is not an isolated case or incident. In fact, it is a recurring problem that undermines the effectiveness of our institutions and the transparency of our budgeting process. And now we have Senator Yusuf Abubakar Yusuf. He is our guest for today, and he is the National Assembly, of course, has a critical role when it comes to, play when it comes to holding these agencies accountable and all of that. But then he is, a former senator, an economist, and a seasoned politician, and he's going to, of course, help us to dissect this. Let's not forget he was the senator representing Taraba Central, talking from 2015 to 2023. And he played a key role when it comes to various committees in the National Assembly, including the Senate Committee of Finance, the Senate Committee on Appropriation, and the Senate Committee on Agriculture. And he's here to help us dissect this 2025 budget proposal and implications of if we do not get it right, and if agencies get to do the no-show situation and challenges, and how it would ensure transparency in the budget and accountability. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you with us
Thank you
this
very
morning.
much.
Senator, let's hear your take on the budget, that was even given when the president submitted the budget. We know there was a lot of economists who dived into the budget and pointed out a bit of flops that they feel drew concern on that. So as an economist, as someone who has been part of the legislative process in the country, what would you say your assessment is when it comes to the budget in its entirety?
Well, thank you very much. When you talk about economists, there is always not the answer. My answer will be different from the other person's. However, the president has presented his 49.7 trillion naira budget with revenue of about 35 trillion, with a deficit of about 15 trillion. And I don't know, it's mind-boggling. For me, 49 trillion is too little for a budget of this country. Considering, over 200 million people, considering, we are developing, considering the infrastructural needs, a lot of it, considering even, the subsidy removal, the fluctuating value of the naira, and what have you. However, budget means cut your coat, not even according to your size, but according to your cloth. Why should government continue to borrow? Why should government continue to go on deficit, to finance its own, budget? This fiscal indiscipline, that is the major burden of our problems in this country. For years, I cannot remember when, was it during Babangida's time that we had a balanced budget? We have never, always deficit financing, both at the national and subnational governments. And I'm worried, because so long as you continue to borrow to finance your deficit, and the budget, which I call is a splurging budget. We are budgeting to buy what we do not need. We are budgeting to buy what we do not even want. And I fail to understand, why should we continue to do this? For what benefit? Who is forcing us to do this? Is it the World Bank? Is it the IMF? Must we always, spend what we do not have? So I'm worried. That is on the general scale of things. So the interest rate will continue to grow. Inflation will continue to grow. Interest rate will not catch up with the inflation rate. So I mean, it's worrisome. For me, it is worrisome to have this kind of budget. I think it is about 53 recurrent, and then about 47 capital. It's worrisome, to be honest. I've been there for about 8 years. Whereas we've been battling with that. Even all the capital expenditure things we buy in this country, we do not buy those we produce. We buy those we import, and we do not have the foreign exchange to import. And government is helping the Nigerian citizen who is not satisfied with locally made goods, see us here, and government is supporting that without the necessary foreign exchange to do that.
All right, I'm sorry to interrupt now. You threw me off when you started by talking about how in Nigeria today that budget is quite small, but you gave other reasons. So to our realistic economy today, what budget do you think Nigerians should have expected from the government, and what could have been different? Is it possible to even get a balanced budget, say in the next 3 years to come?
Honestly, it's possible. It's very, very possible to have a balanced budget, so long as we stop plunging the budget, so long we continue, we stop, buying what we do not need. For instance, in 2024 or 2023, when President came, we all cried here, buying new vehicles, buying new aircrafts, even yak. For me, I'm not against development in the South, but I don't think we should spend 15 trillion naira on West-East Road. For what purpose? I'm not against the development of the South, for God's sake. There are so many roads, so many developmental roads will impact positively, let them even repair the road, between Lagos, Benin, Benin, Asaba. Let them repair that road to make it more trouble to come in between, the towns, the cities, and it is even more meaningful development. What do they want to do with is it the ocean side and what have you? So that is why I said, we must find a way of cutting our coat according to our cloth, because the fiscal indiscipline is impacting negatively on the monetary policies. So long as you do not, have fiscal indiscipline, the naira will continue to depreciate, interest rate will continue to rise, inflation will continue to rise. That is why I sympathize with the governor of Central Bank. Honestly, I sympathize with him. So also I sympathize with the Minister of Finance.
Why the sympathy?
The sympathy for both of them, fiscal indiscipline.
So does that explain why they don't see it fit year in, year out to come in and defend their budget?
Well, there is no reason why an MDA cannot come out to defend. But I have always criticized envelope system.
Please walk us through that envelope system, because some of our callers made a bit of allegations that these MDA's heads come in and sometimes they get charged by, alleged by some legislatives, and perhaps that is why some of them are not showing up.
You see, the envelope system is simple. You budget before you plan. And it's terrible. I have my plan for my MDA, how the money is going to be spent, whether it is revenue generating or not, and what have you. But I will go to Ministry of Planning, Ministry of Finance to defend the budget. They say, no, don't worry. Go and spend this amount of money.
Interesting.
And that for me, there is no plan. The National Development Plan has not been followed. The Fiscal Responsibility, Act has not been followed. MTF has not been followed. So all these kind of things, are bundled into fiscal indiscipline. and we are spending what we do not have. The debt management office, is always borrowing and borrowing, both foreign and local, and for how long are we going to continue to do that? Why, for once, can we not be disciplined enough and say, look, enough is enough. We are going to have at least a balanced budget this year.
All right. Talking about, these people being held accountable, is there any law in Nigerian law that perhaps punish an erring MDA head that does not come to make defense?
There is no law. However, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has given the legislature the right, I think Section 80, 81 of the Constitution, that has given, the National Assembly the right to appropriate. Now, what are you going to appropriate? First of all, you must know what you did last year. What happened? How did it work? How did it perform? And the only person that can give you is the person who you have entrusted with the responsibility to operate the budget last year. They will come and say, well, this is the budget. This is what we have done so far. And then now you will look and say, well, okay, is this how the performance of this budget is this much, and we are budgeting this much. Are we going to be realistic? Are we going to be realistic? So I think these are some of the issues, and it's also tied to oversighting. The responsibility of the legislature is also to oversight. During the year, before even the budget is presented, the various committees, ought to have oversighted, the various MDS, and then, find out how has the MDS been doing. So I don't know whether it is a two-way traffic. The National Assembly or whatever, they are not oversighting as it should be. And these people are saying, well, you have not oversighted us. We are going to present whatever it is. And why you have not come to oversight us? Why should we even come to defend the budget? But it is mandatory for an MDA to go and defend the budget.
So what does this mean? We have MDAs not coming to defend the budget. What does it mean? Where does this leave the hope Nigerians have in the legislature?
Well, as a punishment, what is normally done is that you do zero allocation, zero appropriation. You start with capital, and then you go to recurrent. So you do zero allocation.
But has that been done in any case, considering the no-show, pattern that has
I think in the past, we had done that. I don't know whether this time, they will have the courage to do that. And again, let us be honest with ourselves. When you appoint your friends, when you appoint people that are very, very close to you, who has no regard, for the National Assembly, and of course they will do whatever they want to do.
Sure.
So I think this is also an issue of, indiscipline, in the sense that, oh, I will run to Mr. President, I will run to the Chief of Staff of Mr. President, if the kitchen is too hot for me. And I think there is also, an administrative indiscipline, that is clouding the whole thing.
Really, difficult situation there. I'm still hoping for a solution now. So how can the National Assembly now enforce that constitutional powers to summon agencies and stand by it and hold them accountable and make sure they appear and make the right defense? How should the National Assembly do that?
Let me refer to what we did during our own time. There was a committee. It was a loose committee of Senate President, Honorable Speaker, Mr. President, Vice President, Chief of Staff, I can't remember, okay, maybe Chairman of the ruling political party, used to meet every two months. And in that meeting, it is going to be, like cooperation type of meeting, consultative kind of meeting, where the frustration of the National Assembly is expressed, the frustration of the executives is expressed there, and then, you know, once there is proper consultation, you know, this thing, you know, will be contained. And again, Mr. President must have regard for the National Assembly and not to take National Assembly for granted. You know, they are the representative of the people. So Mr. President must have good regard for the National Assembly and not to take them, you know, lightly. If Mr. President shows the MDS that have no regard for this National Assembly, certainly the MDS will say, well, why? We know that how we can corner these people, how we can do this, we can do that. And thirdly, probably the envelope system has created so much problem that the MDS do not even know what to go and defend. We have presented our budget, but what is given to us is not what we want. So what are we going to present? What are we going to do? And remember, I think we have about 2 or 3 budgets running together now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now what do? About 2 or 3 budgets running together, and which one are you going to apply and defend? So I think there's the whole of gamble of, for me, sorry to use the word confusion, but and also financial recklessness on the side, you know, on the side of the executive. You know, and also, you know, if I sympathize with the institution I came out from, too, because I don't know what they are going to do. They are going to use the figures and the data that are presented to them. Now, if they have an alternate way of finding out how genuine, how credible, how trustworthy these figures are, then they will be able, you know, to work out well. For instance, I was comparing the data on the National Development Plan, that of MTF, you know, and then that of the budget. There's always variance, always variance. So we are not even sure of the kind of data that all of us are working on. So we just sit down and talk and cry and what have you, and then, you know, use the budget, you know, whatever it is, pass it, and Mr. President, you know, whether he has time or he does not have time, he will sign, and the budget cannot be operated.
So
go ahead, because
so
it seems
there's a lot to it.
Question.
It's more like there's a lot to it, and there are lots of vacuums in place due to proper explanations. So we know that there are international best practices to these things. Have we adopted them, and which do you think we could adopt that would work at least a tad bit for us? Maybe untangle the process a little bit.
Well, thank you very much. For Nigeria, our best practices are always, you know, been a gamble. Why do I say so? I had an interview with one of the TV stations where they asked me about World Bank data. I said, the World Bank has no trusted data, because if we look into our crude oil, you know, production, export data, what OPEC is saying is different from what NNPC is saying, from what World Bank is saying, and production is production. It is either, you know, there's a lot of corruption and the data is hidden or falsified and what have you. So this international best practice, it should be, because Nigeria cannot be an island, you know, in the Committee of Nations. However, the way we operate, the way we do our things, you know, we'll find it very, very difficult to apply that international standard. So that is why I say we need a very, very, you know, what do you call it, strong hand in terms of managing, you know, our resources. And the way to do that is not to splurge. If you splurge, you are in trouble. Splurging means you buy what you do not need, what you don't even want. And as far as we Nigerians are concerned, you know, so long as our taste is for this and that, we do not care.
But we saw the president earlier, last year or late last year, addressing Nigerians saying we spend more than we can afford. He said it to us, and that enraged Nigerians. But then let's talk about, the implications of to Nigeria's development and growth of all of this. From our discussion, it shows that the heads, the people that are appointed, most of them do not even understand their main responsibility, because if the envelope process allegedly is going on, that means people do not even know what they are supposed to do and what not to do. And excuses of Mr. President having a lot and not going through the budget is not an excuse, because budget is what shapes the growth of the economy. So what would be the implication if we continue like this for Nigeria in the long haul?
Well, the implication is we'll continue to grow up in darkness, as we are doing today, because we are groping in darkness. The Central Bank of Nigeria today is finding it even very, very difficult to manage the foreign exchange, to manage the foreign exchange rate. I've said not once, not twice, the World Bank, the IMF, know that our Naira is undervalued. It is undervalued. Why will you continue to depreciate as a result of one of the reasons was fiscal indiscipline? The kind of test that we have is not a sustainable test. I mean, sorry, I always take example in my environment. What I'm wearing probably is the sewing that is Nigerian.
Fabric.
Your fabric too. Her fabric too. What you are holding, my wristwatch, my shoes, our everything is imported. And here we have a government that has refused, sorry, quote and unquote, has refused to accept the fact that we must control our tastes. We must control how we splurge, this kind. The splurge is not just government. We too, for instance, maybe I have, 30 pairs of shoes, 50 pairs of shoes. I don't need that. That's even a man. I don't know what, you guys, have. So there are some houses where they have about 4, 5 sitting rooms. Each sitting room has a TV. And each room has, what do you call this, DSTV. And on and on and on and on. And
so
the
our
resources
lifestyle needs to be checked.
Certainly.
Yeah, from the government downwards.
Yeah.
Well, Senator, honestly, I must say I appreciate you for coming today. You did justice to the topic, and hopefully we get to see more of you coming out to say right and do right by the people, because at this point we know Nigeria has everything it takes to be on a global level. So we're hoping we get to see that. Thank you so much, Senator Yusuf.
My appreciation.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was a huge conversation on budget planning. Hope Nigerians are up to par on what is going on. We'll keep holding them accountable until they do right by us.